Hi guys, my name is Inna, welcome to the channel. So I was born in a small town in Ukraine called the Chernivtsi that usually nobody has ever heard of. But I was raised in Italy since the age of 8. I consider myself half Italian, half Ukrainian, but like legally, technically, I am Ukrainian. I was born there, I have family there. Even in my own house, I speak Ukrainian with my parents. So I am definitely Ukrainian. I recently reacted to the Geography Now video, so I went to Ukraine during the war. That was a very interesting and kind of emotional type of video. But today I wanted to react to the normal Geography Now Ukraine video. So I definitely know lots about Ukraine, but there's also a whole lot that I don't know, having been raised in Italy. So I'm really curious to see what's there, and I want to learn more with you. So let's start.
Okay, so I made a video explaining the Ukraine-Russia conflict in 10 minutes. I made a Geography Go video where I actually went to Ukraine. Now there's only one thing left to do. The actual Ukraine episode.
It's time to learn geography.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Get your Geography Now merch like this Geography Now t-shirt or mug at geographynow.com. It's like McDonald's, we only have like 10 things on the website. It's not that hard to choose. In any case, it's not selling out if it's your brand. Gonna put the mug away. So as you guys know, I actually went to Ukraine. Thank you to visitukraine.today. They wanted to sponsor me to not only go to Ukraine, but also to learn more about their country, despite it being in the middle of a war. And also thank you United 24 Media. They also helped me get some great footage and interviews with some exclusive people that you'll see in this video. And speaking of guests, as you know, I love having guest hosts from the country. And with that, say hi to Mr. Misha, our Ukrainian correspondent.
Hello.
How you doing, Misha?
Good, how are you?
Anything you want to just say about Ukraine to the world out there?
Yes, I bring you some really cool flag. You can read actually in Ukrainian as a freedom. V, this is L, this is O, and Ya. Voля, in Ukrainian, freedom.
We'll explain more about this in Flag Fan Day and all this. So yeah, you ready to start the episode?
Yes,
Let's do
I
it.
am.
Let's do it. Wow, you have really white teeth. So Ukraine is a complicated country, and not just in a contemporary sense, but like in a every possible way sense.
And it's definitely not easy to summarize, especially the part we are about to get into.
Little disclaimer, we will be portraying what is internationally recognized and constitutionally part of Ukraine as per the Belozheva Accords and the Budapest Memorandum post-USSR breakup.
With that, here's the motion graphic.
First of all, Ukraine is the largest country entirely within Europe.
Not many people know this, but like I have argued my whole life about this with people, because people that live in Europe think that Europe is just the EU. It's not just the European Union. It's a whole freaking continent, and Ukraine is not part of European Union, but it's part of Europe, and it is the largest country in Europe. I had to argue about this so much with people. But like, they're saying the right thing. I'm happy about that.
Located in the eastern part of the continent, bordering 7 countries with the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov in the south. The country's capital and largest city is Kyiv, located in the north-central part of the country. Just outside the city, on the east side of the river, lies the largest and busiest international airport that services Kyiv, Boryspil International. However, there is a more localized, smaller airport near the city center on the west bank of the river, Zhuliany International. From there, the second and third largest cities, Kharkiv and Odessa, host the second and third largest and busiest airports, Odessa and Kharkiv International. Keep in mind, as of the onset of the Ukraine-Russia war, all air travel has been suspended and grounded until further notice, and the only way to enter into the country is either by land transport from all surrounding countries other than Russia and Belarus, as well as the Russian military-occupied region of Transnistria in eastern Moldova. Travel via Black Sea to the port of Odessa is also possible, but has come with a degree of precaution during conflict times due to the proximity of Russian involvement on the Crimean Peninsula. Speaking of which, subdivision-wise, the country is made up of 24 oblasts, 1 autonomous republic, Crimea, and 2 special status cities of Kyiv and Sevastopol. Now here's where things get more complicated. Even before conflict times, Sevastopol was considered a separate administrative entity from the rest of Crimea, which was already labeled as autonomous, and was even a closed city during the Cold War. As of 2014, Russian forces have annexed the Crimean Peninsula and special status city of Sevastopol, which currently hosts Russia's naval Black Sea fleet. In 2016, Russia started constructing Europe's longest bridge, the Crimea Bridge, a 12-mile, 19-kilometer-long bridge that spans across the Kerch Strait. Effectively, this connected Russia with the Crimean Peninsula for the first time. To this day, only 8 heads of state of 8 countries have announced recognition of the Crimean Peninsula belonging to Russia, whereas the rest of the world either does not recognize it or still recognizes it as distinctly part of Ukraine. In addition, the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts had military-armed Russian-backed separatists that seized government buildings and claimed their own republic status. Later in 2022, Russia announced that they would annex them, and in what the United Nations General Assembly labeled as an attempted illegal annexation. Since 2014's Crimean Peninsula annexation, Ukraine has been in an ongoing war with Russia, and in 2022, Russian forces have entered and occupied parts in the east and south of Ukraine. There was an attempt in the north, but Ukraine was able to regain territory, and as of making this video, the situation is ongoing and ever-changing. Yeah, Ukraine's domain is definitely a topic of long discussion.
And by the way, it's Kiev, not Kiev. Kiev, it's a Russian version of Ukrainian capital, Kiev.
Also, you might hear the term Donbas quite a bit, referring to the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts furthest on the east bordering Russia. The name is a portmanteau of the word Donetsk Basin.
Donbas, it's the front line of Ukrainian fight. Historically, in the past, Donbas was one of the most industrialized area in Ukraine.
So how did all this crazy stuff happen?
Not easy to explain. The whole conflict wasn't just a 2002 issue. You have to go back in time.
Oh, you mean like the 2014 Euromaidan protests?
Annexation of Crimea? The Donbass separatist wars too?
Well, those some things led to it.
Or do you mean the 2008 Yushchenko political crisis?
Or the 2004 Orange Revolution?
Well, I mean...
Oh, no, wait, let me guess. You're bringing this back to the Soviet collapse and all those accords that were signed in the 90s.
That played a huge role, but...
Wait, is this about Khrushchev handing over Crimea in 1954?
I mean, if you want to add that...
Are they, like, I'm trying to figure out where exactly we want to start talking about this, but like technically Russia was born in Ukraine. Like the first Russian city was actually Kiev, like the capital. Like that's where Russia was born. I'm wondering if that's what they want to say or not.
that in there, then fine, but that's not exactly...
Pre-Soviet? Really?
Oh, you have no idea how far back this conflict is going.
Basically, I made a video covering this topic, so we don't have time to spend 80 years scratching the surface. Reference videos are a great way to save time. High five, yeah.
Historically, Ukraine was occupied by the different civilization through the history.
In fact, the oldest excavated culture being the mysterious Neolithic Trypillian culture.
Crimean Peninsula was part of so many different empires in the past.
It was the furthest extent of the Golden Horde, you know, back in the 13th century.
Wait a second, hold up. Did you just say that part of Ukraine was Mongol?
A little more complicated than that, more like a Kipchak Turkicized offshoot version of them, but technically kind of yes.
Crimea River.
In any case, it wasn't until the 9th century that the Kievan Rus was established, and it was essentially the home of the Eastern Slavs.
The word Rus was invented by Viking for the Slavs. If you know your Nordic history, basically went like this.
I'm going west. Well, I'm going east. I guess I'll go north?
Okay, that's enough history. Let's talk about something else. Famous places.
Famous places, yes. And who better to do it than some actual Ukrainians? Here you go.
Hi guys, my name is Tony.
Hi guys, my name is Maria.
Here are just some of famous places. 8 UNESCO heritage sites.
Including the first one, St. Sophia Cathedral, the oldest cathedral in Eastern Slavic countries. Kiev-Pechersk Lavra. Lavra is a large and important monastery.
Odessa city, and Odessa has Potemkin stairs. We have our own Statue of Liberty, yeah, that's right.
We have the
I didn't know that.
Love Tunnel. Baturin was once the capital of the Cossack hetman on the left side of Ukraine.
Sofiivka Park, yeah, Sofiivka Park, beautiful in spring and summer. We have so many castles and fortresses in Ukraine.
Motherland Monument in Kiev, the ancient Baba stones.
And finally, Chernobyl. To this day, 2,600 square kilometers, exclusion zone, deemed unsafe for habitation.
But people are still curious and love to visit, and has become a top tourist destination in the recent years.
And I forget about Pripyat.
Pripyat, yeah.
Yeah,
It's the city inside.
Yeah.
And hope you can visit Ukraine.
Yeah, Slava Ukraini.
Okay, I knew some of these. I'm surprised that they didn't mention the UNESCO World Heritage Site that you find in my city, Chernivtsi. Like, our university is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it's beautiful. I'm so surprised that they didn't mention it.
Героям слава!
Slava Nazi.
Thank you, Tony and Maria.
Hey, did you know Ukraine might have the geographic center of Europe, the village Dilove? Oh no, I actually been. It's a forest and cross and that's it.
Hey, I did that. Okay, gone. So there you go, a complicated map with complicated backstory and even more complicated mode of operating itself.
Ukraine is not a simple country.
No, it's not. But one thing that does seem to be quite simple is the landscape of Ukraine.
It's a little bit flat.
A little bit, most of it.
Yes. And with that, let's move on.
Physical geography.
So, on the surface, Ukraine looks like mostly flat country with a little bit of fluctuation topography.
But it goes so much more deeper than just farms. Ukraine's land is an absolute resource powerhouse that feeds not only themselves, but much of Europe. We'll talk about that soon. In the meantime, here's the motion graphic. For one, the majority of Ukraine lies on the East European plain. This is an enormous stretch of generally flat plains and plateaus that extend all the way to what are considered the geographic borders of what constitute Europe along the Ural and Caucasus Mountains. Within Ukraine, the landscape essentially slopes downward west to east, starting in the furthest southwestern part of the country where you can find the highest elevation in the Carpathian Mountains. Here you can also find the tallest peak, Hoverla, in the Zakarpattia Oblast. The Crimean Peninsula is the only other place that has a notable mountain range within the country, averaging around 1,500 meters high. The peninsula is only connected via the Perekop Isthmus, which at its narrowest is only about 3 miles or 5 kilometers wide. Otherwise, the rest of the peninsula is separated by shallow lagoons and bays with the 70-mile, 112-kilometer-long skinny Arabat Spit, or the Arabat Arrow, a barrier island that separates the Sibash Lagoon from the Sea of Azov. From there you have the Podolian and Dnieper uplands in the north, the Polesian lowland and Dnieper lowlands across the longest river of the country, the Dnipro River, that essentially bisects the country in half, emptying into the Black Sea near the city of Kherson. The Dnipro River is the lifeline of the country, containing several hydroelectric power stations and dams that have effectively created 6 reservoirs along its banks, which is why it looks like such a fat, wide river on maps and satellite images. In terms of freshwater lakes, the country has tons and tons of small ponds and lakes along their forests and plains. However, the largest inland body of freshwater would be Lake Yalpa in the Odessa Oblast, not far from the Danube River that separates them from Romania. Yes, that is correct. Ukraine is the last country the mighty Danube River gets to encounter before it drains into the Black Sea.
And speaking which, if you're afraid of deep water, probably the best place where you can learn how to swim is Azov Sea, because it's so shallow, you can walk in hours and hours and hours and it's never get deep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In any case, although most of the country is flat, it is loaded with export material. And you guys really love your coffee. Like, I went to Lviv. I believe Lviv has more cafes per capita than anywhere else in the world. There's like over 1,500 cafes.
Yeah, and
No
the coffee in
idea, I
Lviv, it's
didn't
amazing.
And speaking of coffee, it's time for my triple shot espresso break. And with that, here's Noah to explain a little bit more on the trade sector. Take it away, Noah.
All right, Jogger peeps, time to make sure that you know a few things. As an agricultural powerhouse, Ukraine is often touted as the breadbasket of Europe, as they have a huge share of wheat and barley exports. They are also often ranked the #1 producer of sunflower seeds in the world. This is because
Yeah, like about the sunflowers, it's true we have so many. I remember when I used to go there every summer, and wherever you drive, you see sunflower fields. Amazing, like at least in my area.
2/3 of their land is arable, and much of it blessed with the rich Chernozem soil. It is characterized by its dark black color containing high percentages of phosphorus and humus, perfect for crop cultivation.
Hummus?
Not hummus. It's soil made of decomposed organic material rich in nutrients and has a high moisture retention.
Organic material with high moisture? I mean, that's not that far off from hummus.
Sure, whatever.
Can you make humus out of hummus?
You don't get to talk anymore. In any case, despite having a mixed economy made up of industry, energy, mining, and manufacturing sectors, they have remained one of the lowest income nations in all of Europe and is classified as a lower middle income economy. This is due to many factors such as hyperinflation in the 90s, monetary expansion due to government spending. The largest hit, though, would have to be their cutting of ties to their former largest trading partner, Russia. Since then, their trade with the EU has increased dramatically, mostly going through Poland. Ukraine is also a mining powerhouse, hosting about 90 different minerals, 20 of which are economically significant. Today, Ukraine operates 4 nuclear power plants, including the largest in Europe in Zaporizhia. There used to be 5 plants, but we all know about the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, the largest nuclear accident to date. Nobody is allowed to move or give birth there. However, a few elderly inhabitants are allowed to remain in their original homes where they live quietly and receive aid. Weirdly enough, this actually became one of Ukraine's largest tourist destinations post-Soviet breakup. It
It's so sad, so devastating.
Hey, can I see it?
This isn't a joke. We have to block it off.
But I'm a disaster enthusiast. I'll pay you a lot of money.
Okay, give me your money.
And that's how that industry started. They also have their own domestic automobile manufacturing plants and brands, the largest being ZAZ, or Zaporizhian Autos. In addition, Ukraine is one of the 9 countries with a full cycle of aerospace hardware engineering and production. They're probably most famous for their production of large-scale Antov and Ruslan cargo transport jets, including the AN-225 Mriya, the largest transport aircraft ever created. Unfortunately,
I had no idea about this.
on February 24, 2022, it was destroyed in a Russian attack while parked in a hangar at the Antonov airport. Plans have been made to rebuild it though. That was a lot of heavy detail. However, one person that always lightens a heavy mood would be our resident animal correspondent, Gary Harlow. Let's roll.
Gary Harlow here. Time to fly into this like a Ukraine. First of all, Ukraine is a treasure trove of flora. You can find the national flower marigolds everywhere, and thanks to the cooler, wet climate.
Why didn't I know that was the national flower? What's the national flower of Italy where I live? I don't know the national flowers of any country.
Ukraine is able to harbour over 6,600 species of identified fungi and many more probably still undiscovered. It really is the mushroom kingdom. Oh no, the Nintendo missiles are coming! In some of the forest and mountain regions, animals like wolves, brown bears, lynxes, martens and boars can be found. Birds are a huge part of Ukraine's ecosystem. Over 100 species are either native or migrate to Ukraine. If a little egret or white stork make a nest on a telephone pole or on top of your house, it is said to be good luck. It's like, you have been chosen for my blessing. The national animal though is the nightingale, known for being able to mimic sounds it hears and repeat them back. They would be like, you have been chosen for my blessing. Oddly enough, due to the lack of human activity, animals are repopulating and thriving in Chernobyl. Even the famous Chevalsky horse, one of the most endangered in the world, known for their shorter, stockier, chunkier bodies. Speaking of short and chunky, I've got a baby daughter to feed. Cheers, mates!
Thanks, Gary. Speaking of mushrooms, a favorite pastime of many Ukrainians is mushroom picking in the forest, as many of the species are edible and used in their cuisine. The cuisine of Ukraine is definitely worth it. To talk more about it, we have a very special guest star, possibly the most famous chef in Ukraine, Mr. Klopotenko. Take it away to the food!
Introduce yourself.
So, my name is Yevgen Klopotenko. I'm Ukrainian chef and I'm the guy who is changing the food culture in Ukraine, and I'm trying to put Ukraine on the world's map.
Also, stand up, show your pants.
That's my pants.
The Cossack
Yeah.
pants.
So the most famous appetizer is like our pork fat or salo, because we were not using a lot of butter. The most
Yeah, that thing salo, I remember that it was in our house every single day basically. People love it there. I honestly haven't eaten it in years, so I'm not sure if I like it, because it's literally fat. Like, I think that you either love it or hate it, no in between.
important dish for the Ukrainian cuisine, it's a borscht. It's our main dish, and now it's from the 1st of July of 2020.
Oh, it's classified as a World Heritage dish? I didn't know. It's delicious. My mom makes it to this day quite often in winter.
It's a World Heritage dish. Next dish is called sirniki. We're just frying that, and it's very nice. So
I'm sorry, I just had lunch, but I'm getting hungry looking at this stuff, and I see the picture of what they're about to say. Like, that's so good. So good.
But the third dish, it's called dumplings, or we call it vareniki. But in Ukraine, it's very famous to use sour cherry and poppy seeds. Chicken Kiev.
Oh, I love chicken.
Yeah, chicken Kiev, chicken fillet, and inside it has a butter and some dill normally.
Weirdly enough, I never tried this dish.
Also Kiev cake, some kind of meringue with the nuts. Kvass is our, it's like fermented bread drink, and we're putting this kvass on top of the meat. It's called vereshchaka.
Last question, favorite dish you can cook?
Me?
Do you have a signature dish?
Borscht. If you want to touch borscht, you have to touch me. Touch me. You feel it?
All right, well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, chef. And with that, I will take my leave. Back to you, Barbs.
Thank you, Noah.
Yeah, also Ukraine have a quiet culture around the bread.
From my research, you guys have over 80 kinds of ritual breads.
Oh, my mom also, she cooked this bread, it's called korovai, and it's now become an intangible heritage
Of Ukraine. Well, in any case, just like the food, the people of Ukraine have so many unique traits and flavors to them. Let's discuss that. So, Misha, your opinion, what is a Ukrainian person?
It's a person who have a Ukrainian heart, no matter where you live, no matter who you are, what color you are. I live in US, I live here, but I still have a deep attachment to the culture and people.
You can take the Ukrainian out of Ukraine, but you can't take the Ukraine out of them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So Ukraine's population has gone through major fluctuations over the past 3 decades. Their population actually peaked in 1993 at 52 million. However, factors like mass emigration and for a while having a higher death rate than a birth rate made Ukraine's population decline sharply. And also, depending on which census you rely on, population statistics of Ukraine might conflict because some include or don't include Crimea and the Donbas Oblast of Donetsk and Luhansk.
As of 2023, Russia has annexed over 90% of Luhansk Oblast and half of the Donetsk Oblast, including the capital Donetsk.
With all that taken into account, due to the conflict times displacing people across the country, ethnic group numbers have fluctuated and there's no concrete way of getting exact numbers, but this is the general demographic makeup I got by averaging out numbers from as many sources as I could find. Here we go. The population of Ukraine as of 2023 is around 42 million, which is a rough estimate that includes the returned diaspora, but also does not include the Crimean population, around 2.5 million, and shaving off some of the 2.5 million population living in annexed populations of the Donbas region, but does include the 500,000 of Ukrainians in Ukraine-controlled areas of the Donbas. It seems the country is, of course, predominantly made up of people that identify as ethnically Ukrainian at somewhere around 80%. There, somewhere around 17% of the nation claims to be ethnic Russian. Keep in mind, these lines are kind of blurred because many people are also mixed between both Ukrainian and Russian parents, and many may claim either side depending on who you talk to, but this seems to be the general number. From there, the remaining population is made up of various other ethnic groups, mostly from neighboring nations like Romanians, Hungarians, Polish, Ukrainian Jews, Pontic Greeks, and yes, even a small population of Koreans.
In any case, quickly, the country uses hryvnia, it's a national currency. We use type C and F block outlet, and we drive on the right side of the road.
In Ukraine, the official language obviously is Ukrainian, an East Slavic language descended out of the medieval Ruthenian language.
Russian, it's also common spoken secondary language through the, obviously it was introduced during the Russian Imperial era and Soviet Union.
Also, there's Suzyk. What is Suzyk? Explain.
Suzyk is my first language actually, with which I grew up. It's a kind of mix of Ukrainian and Russian, but also have a lot of different words which doesn't exist anywhere else.
Since 2000.
Honestly, I had no idea about this third language. Like, I don't know anybody who speaks it.
2014, a lot more people have just started speaking Ukrainian, right?
Like, yes.
Yeah, like they kind of...
Yeah, right? I still continue speak in Suzyk with my family, like mom, dads, and my best friends. But Ukrainian, it's more common language what you use in the country. It's obviously changed.
The closest languages you guys can understand are probably Belarusian and Polish, maybe? Or?
Yeah, I think like if you if anyone speak in Belarusian, Polish, Czech language, you can understand easily.
Oh, you can understand Czech too?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Speaking of which, near about 3/4 of all Ukrainians claim to be affiliated with the Eastern Orthodox Church, and then 10% being Catholic.
You mostly in the
western part,
yeah,
yes,
like by Lviv.
And the southern part is Muslim.
Now, there are quite a few regional customs between Ukrainians, like, you know, you have the Hutsul Ukrainians and the Carpathians, and you have the Bukovina Ukrainians, but nothing exemplifies the Ukrainian identity more than the Cossack spirit, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. What is a Cossack?
Cossacks eventually mean freemen. It's actually people who doesn't want to be part of Polish, Lithuanian, and also Russian Empire. They was made from exiles from both places and want to build free society from monarchy.
Kind of sounds like a country of just adventurous people.
Yes, it is.
The exact origins are disputed, but in a nutshell, they stem from semi-nomadic peoples in the Pontic steppe and Caspian steppe regions, somewhere around the 13th century after all that crazy shit with the Mongols went down.
Oh, and I think the peak of the Cossack culture was when the Bogdan Khmelnytsky was in power, because he established the border and capital.
They were right in between two major empires, the Russians and the Polish-Lithuanians, and when said states saw these Cossacks, it was like, those Cossacks are very rough and militaristic, and they're like very hell-bent intent on maintaining their autonomy.
Why don't we use that to our advantage?
How so?
They love fighting, so why don't we just hire them as mercenaries to fight our battles while promising them autonomy?
I mean, I really do want to expand past the Urals, and you have that whole beef with the Ottoman Empire.
Right, right.
Wait, don't we hate each other too?
Long story short, but Cossacks have always been a central part of Ukrainian culture and identity.
Wait, don't you guys also have like a Cossack cartoon like called Kozaki?
Yes, it's three Cossacks, they always fight with Russians.
In any case, you need to be strong and fierce when competing in sports. So with that, let's jump over to the sports part with Art.
Honestly, I don't know anything about sports in Ukraine. Anything. Maybe like ballet, dance, ballerinas? I don't know.
Merry Christmas, even though it's not Christmas. All right, let's get started. Take him. Alrighty, peeps, let's get Ukraine in the membrane. You know that song, like, Insane in the Membrane? Never mind. Ukraine and sports have always gone hand in hand. So much so that, in fact, they have created their own, like, combat hopak, a martial art that was invented by Zaporizhian Cossacks that mixed traditional dance with fighting. There's also traditional hopak saber fencing and wrestling.
You played a Cossack in the Russia episode, remember?
I do remember that. Yeah, I was really pent up and angry. Ukraine has competed in every Olympics as an independent nation since 1994. Since then, Ukraine has racked up nearly 150 medals at the Olympics as of 2023 with 38 golds, the best events being gymnastics and wrestling. Larissa Latinia is a total national treasure. Competing under the Soviet Union, out of any male or female, she held the record for 48 years with the most gold medals at 9, and overall she won 18 medals over the course of 3 Olympic Games. In terms of wrestling, Ukraine has many champions, but a huge deal in wrestling would be Jean Belianuk, who got the gold in Tokyo Olympics, and we got him on the show. Barbs was actually able to interview him in the Ukraine episode here. Here's a quick snapshot right here.
Hey everyone, my name is Jean Belianuk. I'm Afro-Ukrainian. I'm Olympic champion in Greco-Roman wrestling and member of Ukrainian Parliament. My first big win it was first place in European Championship. Mr. Zelensky, we know each other before that, and he told me about he want to invite me.
What was your life like growing up in Ukraine?
I was born in 1991 when Soviet Union
just collapsed.
Yes. And new country, new rules, and that's why. And I was only with my mom, guys with my type of skin.
Of course, yeah.
And different difficult situation. But
do Ukrainian people generally accept you?
Ukrainian people very tolerant, you know, and I have a lot of friends. School of life, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe I decided to go into Greco-Roman wrestling.
Yeah, and now you're in the parliament. Now you're famous gold medalist. Are you happy?
Yes, I feel honored. After Barack Obama,
I feel like Ukrainian Barack Obama.
Yes.
Thank you so much, man, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jean. Such a cool guy. Anyway, there's so many other things that we could highlight in Ukrainian athletics, like the boxing brothers, the 2-time world's strongest man winner, that dude who broke over 35 pole vaulting records. But at the end of the day, you must mention FC Dynamo, Ukraine's most popular football club. They have won dozens of USSR championships and UEFA cups. And number 7, the Ukrainian dream, Andrei Shevchenko, who won awards for the best player and best scorer. He won 2 bronze and 1 golden ball award. Today he's doing good and he enjoys playing golf in his spare time. Don't we all just want that? To look back at all the glory and just play golf in our spare time.
Get out of here, Art.
That's right, giving up on life, baby. Go play some golf.
Thank you, Art.
It's important to mention the acrobatic school in Ukraine is also really big.
Yeah, like Ukraine's Got Talent, there's always like 50 different acrobatic acts or something. Anyway, so many things about the culture. You know what's gonna happen. Hannah is gonna take over that. Random Hannah, take it away with the culture segment.
It's the culture segment. It's insane. We're in Ukraine. So what are some of the things that are distinctly Ukrainian? For one, you have to kind of look at the root. Historically, Ukraine's had a significantly different climate and different rich soil from their Russian neighbors. This influenced so many things in daily life, like traditional Ukrainian white clay thatched roof houses versus wooden Russian cabins. Many historians also attribute this as being a factor to why Ukrainians have a more individualistic based culture, due to the fact that single families could be completely self-sufficient on their own land, as opposed to the more collectivist against Russians that had fewer immediate access to resources and needed to depend on a larger community to operate. It's a theory, make of it what you will. In any case, the national dress is the vyshyvanka, and the embroidery has very specific motifs and patterns and are indicative to the specific regions the wearer is from. Many of these patterns are rooted in ancient Slavic mythology and beliefs, which are to some extent still practiced and synchronized with their predominant Eastern Orthodox tradition. Ukrainians have also been huge on inventions and accomplishments. Things like CDs, bloodless blood tests, vaccines against the plague and cholera, postcodes, kerosene lamps, and the first kidney transplant was performed in Ukraine as well.
I had no idea about most of these things. Wow.
This goes on. Of course, Ukraine has never shied away from the arts. You might find the whimsical opishina ceramics in gift shops, usually depicting lions and rams. If that's not your thing, maybe go for some Petri Kiva. Literature is a huge pastime too. This guy is considered the first modern Ukrainian author. Taras Shevchenko is a national poet, and everyone knows Lesya Ukraina was one of the most famous writers that pushed for Ukrainian independence. Today, numerous monuments and 6 museums are dedicated to her honor, and she is even on their money. Many artists, filmmakers, and writers were suppressed during the Soviet times. Nonetheless, Ukrainian cinema has lived on. No movie more world-renowned and critically acclaimed than Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. Yeah, if you want to see real authentic Ukrainian customs and traditions, Ukrainians will tell you to go to the Carpathians. That's where all the original stuff goes down. And another original thing Ukraine has is music. And let's see who's taking over the music segment, because these days it switches off a lot. Honestly, anyone's better than Keith.
Woo! Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Keith here. So I haven't been able to have enough time to even come up with a script, so our good friend Yvonne is gonna take it over. Also, I want to say a big shout out to the metal band Ginger. I love you guys. And here is Yvonne with the music. Later, dogs.
Hey, most of Ukrainians believe that musicality is one of the main features of Ukrainians. The oldest musical instruments found in Ukrainian territories is triskotchka and flutes from Mammoth, dated 20,000 years old. There are Ukrainian musical instruments like lira, kobza, truby, surmy, litavri, sopilka, and so on. Pagan rituals still took place in Ukraine, such as kupola, malanka. So a lot of Ukrainian songs have pagan elements. Also, there was dumy, historical songs about knyaz, wars, etc. Dumy had been performed by kobzars. They played bandura or kobza while singing, but during the Soviet era, almost all of the kobzars were killed. Kobza and bandura were prohibited and confiscated, just like literally burned. Maxim Berezovsky, born 1745, basically the Ukrainian Mozart. Semen Gulak-Artemovsky, author of one of the first Ukrainian opera, Zaporozhye Zadunaim. Mykola Lysenko, born 1842, called the father of Ukrainian music. He also a father of USSR and Russian anthem, because his composition Epic Fragment was stolen and rearranged.
What?
Igor Stravinsky probably had a relationship with Coco Chanel, has his own star in Hollywood. Mykola Leontovich, composer of probably one of the most known Ukrainian songs, Shedrik, or you may know it as Carol of the Bells. But Mykola hasn't seen his success because USSR's Bolsheviks killed him in 1921. Volodymyr Ivasyuk, born 1949, writer of the best Ukrainian hit songs of that time, Chervona Ruta, Vdaleky Gori, was killed by KGB. Okay, Ukraine has taken part in the Eurovision contest since 2003, and even 3 times we took the first place. Ruslana in 2004, Jamala in 2016, and Kalush in 2022. So that's kinda all I gotta say. Barbs?
Thank you, Ivan. I remember one time though, I tried to whistle in a car and the guy yelled at me. He's like, don't whistle in a car.
Yeah, that's really bad. Yeah, whistle, it's in Ukrainian culture, it's kind of like for bad luck.
We've covered.
Well, whistling inside, like indoors, in closed spaces. In my area, we say that if you whistle in the house, it's gonna take money from the house. Like you're gonna be broke if you do it. So random.
So much about the culture and the people and the demographics of Ukraine. Guess what? There's other people in this world, and Ukraine seems to interact with them. Which brings us to the last segment. So Ukraine and friends around the world, it's just like their history. It's ever complicated and shifting.
Always shifting, yes.
Yeah. But here's the animation. Let's get into it.
First of all, to this day it seems their number one foreign policy objective has been integration with the Euro-Atlantic zone. In 2018, they officially ended their participation with the CIS, further cutting ties to Russia and other members, but mostly Russia. Outside of Europe, Canada was not only the second country in the world to recognize their independence, but actually has the largest Ukrainian diaspora at somewhere around 1.5 million, mostly concentrated in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Today they have a free trade agreement and many cities are sister cities, including Kyiv with Toronto. The USA has the second largest Ukrainian diaspora in the Americas and has also been a key ally in more recent times, as they, along with other countries, have pledged billions of dollars in aid during war times. High-level visits have been conducted by both heads of state, and overall relations have grown since the 2010s. In Asia, it seems Turkey and China have an interesting role. Both have expressed interest in helping mediate somewhat in conflict. However, for the most part, they've been low-key and just business-oriented. Since 2008, China surpassed Russia as becoming Ukraine's largest trade partner, and in 2022, Chinese ambassador to Ukraine, Fan Xianrong, is quoted for saying that China will support Ukraine both economically and politically despite conflict times. Turkey is an interesting one. Not only have they both had historically strained relations with Russians, for Turks dating back to Ottoman times, but Erdogan is also explicitly quoted for telling former President Poroshenko that Turkey would not recognize the annexation of Crimea. In addition, they are a major partner in Ukrainian exports across the Black Sea and do lots of business with them. Back in Europe, though, we get a more clear image of where the closest ties lie today. And since 2022, the EU has granted them candidate status for accession to the EU, and Zelensky signed an EU membership application. Since then, they have also joined NATO's Enhanced Opportunity Partner Interoperability Program and have submitted an application for membership as well. Every Baltic country and Finland have expressed huge support for Ukraine since the onset of the war. Each side has a period of time understanding conflict with Russia. Their EU neighbors, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Germany, Czechia, and non-EU Moldova have all taken in many refugees during the war and have pledged support for Ukraine. The UK is a huge supporter. Immediately when you enter any British airport, you will see signs set up in the Ukrainian language offering assistance for refugees. In addition, they have pledged aid to Ukraine and are even in a trilateral security pact with Ukraine. When it comes to their best friend, almost every Ukrainian I have talked to has said Poland, which is the third member of the trilateral security pact. Poland has taken in the most refugees since the war. They share a bond based on history of understanding what life was like either under the Soviets or the Warsaw Pact. Their languages are pretty intelligible, and integration of Ukrainians into Polish society is incredibly easy for them. All of the drama of the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth years centuries ago is pretty much over and they've moved on. Ukrainians and Poles will always be there for each other.
In conclusion, Misha, you are the Ukrainian. I'm gonna give this to you, and I'm gonna head out. See ya.
Ukraine, it's not just border. Ukraine, it's people, soul, culture. As long as Ukrainian people exist and culture, there will be always Ukraine. And we will always fight for our freedom and independence. Slava Ukraini!
Just as I imagined, that was very interesting. I learned so much stuff that I had no idea about. Like, honestly, I don't know much about culture from like the arts perspective, so that was definitely interesting and I'm looking forward learning more. So thank you very much guys for watching, thank you for being here. Let me know if you have any requests, any other videos that you would like me to react to. Bye!